What you are about to experience is out of this world. Politics, history, and of course, a lot of entertainment. It's time to rock it with the Docket.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with our very 126th episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. And if you are excited to be here as well, make sure to go down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so then you never miss one of my videos. So, as expected, Joe Biden decided that he will throw his hat into the 2024 presidential election. Which, I'm not really sure why, because the man is older than dirt. As if he wins re-election, he'll be 81 years old. And after his second term, he'll be the ripe old age of 85. And we already know that his mental focus really isn't all there.
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't, look, I have trouble even saying to myself, my own head, the number of years. I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly.
And I mean, he can't even comprehend how old he is. And the question that has been on my mind recently is, can't the Democrats pick someone younger? Isn't there someone in the Democratic Party that is competent enough to lead this nation? I mean, they could pick Kamala Harris, who's literally one of the worst politicians in the history of the world. But she can't run because she is the vice president, so she might end up being the president in the next 4 years if Joe Biden wins. Why can't they pick Pete Buttigieg? Nothing controversial has happened to him, like being pressured to go to East Palestine, Ohio. And then recently he once again claimed that roads were racist. This is the second time that he has done this. And both times were very stupid. They could pick AOC, but I don't think the world is ready for that. So it does look like Joe Biden is the only one that is the most competent person to lead the Democratic Party, which is saying a lot. So Joe Biden decided to release this little video announcing that he was running for the presidency, which is interesting as when Trump announced, he was at Mar-a-Lago and talked for almost an hour and a half about how he wanted to help this country. Of course, there were sections in Donald Trump's speech where he talked about how America was in decline because of Joe Biden, but that's just a fact. This video that Joe Biden released literally only shows Joe Biden for 5 seconds, as he talked about how we have to fight for the soul of this nation, and the battle is still continuing to this day. Just like in 2020 and the last midterm election, if Republicans win, then there won't be any democracy anymore. Our democracy is literally under attack, and the only way to fix it is to give us, the Democrats, all the power, because we know how to work with it. This democracy under attack was also evident as the very first thing shown in the video was January 6th footage. This was also expressed in another part of the video where Joe Biden talks about how there are radical Republicans that want to literally ban books, tell people who they can and can't love, and those evil, terrible Republicans don't want you to vote, which they are all lies. Then at the end of the video, Joe Biden talks again how we have to fight for our democracy. Honestly, who knew that our democracy was so fragile? The other party wins and it just crumbles right into pieces. It's weird how that works. Speaking of weird, it was weird that in the video, Joe Biden never mentioned any policy he was going to put into place if he wins. That's usually what a campaign video, especially one where you are running for president, does. It tells the American people what you want to do. It lays out the platform for your next term. But this one is just full of empty words and feel-good phrases. I can't tell you what he wants to do in his second term because this video tells us nothing. I mean, the new slogan for his campaign is, "Let's get the job done." What job, Joe? Everything that you have touched has literally turned to crap. The real slogan should say, "Let's get the job done and destroy America." I mean, honest question here, and you can write down your answer in the comments. What are Joe Biden's biggest accomplishments? I mean, the only thing that I can think of is that he didn't die, which at his age is a huge accomplishment. Along with that, I guess you can say that he appointed a woman of color to the Supreme Court, which to the left and any president, that is a huge deal, as it changes the way that the court is shaped. Other than that, you can say that Joe Biden had good intentions, but they ended up leading into bad consequences. For example, when Joe Biden first came into office, he tried to help the American people struggling with COVID-19 and passed the American Rescue Plan, even though COVID was out the door and we didn't really need it. Joe Biden signed it into law anyway. That was a very nice thing of him to do, but it had consequences, as this $1.9 trillion bill led to the spark of the worst inflation in 40 years, causing prices of everyday goods to go up, and the average American citizen is suffering and is still suffering to this day with those prices. This was also the case for the Inflation Reduction Act, which ironically led to more inflation because we were just spending more and more money. Another circumstance that had good intentions but led to disaster was the evacuation of Afghanistan. Joe Biden wanted to end America's longest war, and so he made a commitment to lead the country on September 11th. They thought that the Afghan government could handle it, but the minute American troops left, the Taliban came in and took over, taking United States military equipment and growing ISIS-K, which led to a terrorist attack that killed 13 American soldiers, along with the countless of people that died as they fell from an airplane because they didn't want to live under the Taliban. The American government even promised that they would come back and get our citizens out that were still living in Afghanistan, but they never did. This was one of the worst situations that happened for the Joe Biden administration, and it made the United States look extremely weak, which in turn led to Russia to invade Ukraine, which then led to the United States sending over billions of dollars to Ukraine. And with a war going on, along with the high inflation, it led to gas prices to completely skyrocket. There are so many other things I could say about this president and the absolute disaster that he has been to this country, like claiming that MAGA Republicans are domestic terrorists while lit up in blood red lights, claiming that Georgia's voting law made Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. What was that? He never visited East Palestine, Ohio. He has supported the idea that young children should get their healthy genitals removed. He picked his vice president and his Supreme Court justice just because of race. And Joe Biden will pride himself on having the most diverse cabinet in American history. But here's a fact. They are all terrible. Everything that they do turns to crap. Pure, unadulterated garbage. The best intentions from the Joe Biden administration always come back to bite him in the butt. This is why the American people don't want Joe Biden, as there's a recent poll that came out, and yes, it is still early, but it shows that 70% of Americans don't want Joe Biden to run in 2024, and 51% of those people were Democrats. This is why in another poll, Robert Kennedy Jr., a Democrat and also an anti-vaxxer, now has 20% in the polls. Once again, it's still early, but this shouldn't be the case for an incumbent president. Like in 2024, Donald Trump was winning the nomination by 99.8%, and Bill Weld, some governor, had only 0.2% of the vote. This is why the media is absolutely freaking out. They need to protect this guy, and this is why they want to cancel the Democratic debates. Now, this is normal. As I said, usually the incumbent is leading by 99 points, so it wouldn't make sense for Joe Biden, who's at 99%, to debate someone who's at 0.1%. However, if Joe Biden is at 51% and an opponent is at 48%, then they should debate. So then the American people can decide who they want to run for the Democrats. If Joe Biden takes a bigger lead, then a debate won't make sense. And I get that. This is also the case with Donald Trump, as I think he also doesn't want to debate anyone. But once again, if DeSantis decides to throw his hat into the ring and he's right behind him in the polls, then I want them to debate. Even though it's standard for the incumbent to not have to debate anyone, the media is trying so hard to protect Joe Biden. Like, Republicans aren't just running against Joe Biden, they are running against the establishment media, and it is terribly annoying. First, of course, we have to start with The View because they are ridiculous. Whoopi claims that Joe Biden is doing a wonderful job and the economy is just perfect and Democrats just need to fall in line, which all of that's a lie. And then Joy Behar says something stupid. Just take a look at this.
Just want to keep you abreast of this. They said voting machines stole an election. It didn't. It did not. And they said Joe would break the economy. We have record low unemployment and inflation is down to 5% from 10 at its peak. So let's be realistic. You know?
Right.
But Democrats, I don't know why you're talking about, who's the person to do the job is doing the job.
Yeah.
You get behind him and we won't have a problem. The minute you start making inroads or maybe this person or maybe this person, we're done for.
Also,
so make a decision. Make a decision.
Also, he needs another 4 years to finish the job. You can't fight fascism in 4 years only. No. You need 8 years for that.
Well, you know what? But you also
on Twitter. You were fighting fascism on Twitter.
Yeah. You also need people to recognize what their best interests are.
Now, I don't know if Joy Behar is just joking about the fascism thing because she laughs, but in this situation, I don't know who she thinks the fascists are. Is it Donald Trump? Is it Ron DeSantis? Is it any Republican that the Republicans pick because they are trying to fearmonger you? Yes. And the media will continue to do this just to protect Joe Biden because to the Democrats, they aren't just fighting Republicans, they're fighting fascism. So Joe Biden doesn't get any hard questions. Instead, he gets to know the question ahead of time. As there was a press conference with the president of South Korea, and Joe Biden had a card that had the journalist's name, face, what paper she worked for, and a statement on what her question will be about. As the cheat sheet said, how are you squaring your domestic priorities like restoring semiconductors with alliance-based foreign policy? Now, the journalist's question wasn't exactly on Joe Biden's sheet, but it was very close. Just take a listen to this.
Damaging a key ally in the competition with China to help your domestic politics ahead of the election.
So it was a little different, but it gave Joe Biden an idea of what she would be talking about. This means that the White House met with these reporters and asked them what they were going to talk about to the president. And Joe Biden had a list of people to call on. As on the note card, it said question 1. He didn't look into the crowd and said, hey, let's ask that reporter a question. No. Everything is coordinated to help Joe Biden. Joe and the media are in cahoots. Now, if this story comes out, and the worst press secretary ever, Karine Jean-Pierre, had to play damage control, and claim that it was 100% normal for Joe Biden to have this little cheat sheet. As she said, it is entirely normal for a president to be briefed on reporters who will be asking questions at a press conference and issues that we expect they might ask about. Yes, it is 100% fine that the president is briefed on what questions might come out, but having a cheat sheet that shows you exactly what the reporter is going to talk about is very weird. Along with the word you being all capitalized like Joe Biden doesn't know where or who he is. It's just weird. It's not normal unless other presidents were just better at hiding their cheat sheets. Now, this wasn't the first time that Joe Biden had a cheat sheet, as back in March of 2021, in his very first ever press conference, he had a cheat sheet that showed him what answers he could say to the reporters. And of course, he had a cheat sheet with all the reporters' faces on it, what papers they worked for, and their names along with pronunciations of their name. The days of hard-hitting journalism are over because the media is just a wing of the Democratic Party. They will ask Joe Biden, why are you such a great president when inflation is on the rise? But when Donald Trump was president, the media did nothing but ask him hard questions, trying to get Trump to say something wrong to make him look bad. Honestly, watching a Trump press conference was like watching a WWE SmackDown match. You remember the Trump versus Jim Acosta fight, right?
I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of
You know
miles
what?
away. That's
I
not
think
an
you
invasion.
should, honestly, you know
miles
what?
away.
I
That's
think
not an
you
invasion.
should, honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings
Let
would
me
be
ask,
much better.
if I may
Okay,
ask
that's
one other
enough.
question. Mr. President, if I may, I was
That's
going
enough.
to ask one of the other folks. have
That's
had-
enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr.
Excuse
President.
me, that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question,
let's
if
go.
I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have
I'm not concerned
indictments-
about anything with
that you
the
may have
Russian
indictments coming
investigation
down?
because it's a hoax.
Are you-
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course of
Okay,
the...
just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President, over the course of the last several days of the campaign, sir.
You can see how Jim Acosta just keeps on attacking and asking follow-up questions. This doesn't happen with Joe Biden. And then when Trump asks the media to ask the president of Finland a question, and then out of the blue they ask him about Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden, of course Trump gets angry. And it led to one of the greatest clips of all time. So I guess there was some good in it.
Biden and his son are stone cold crooked, and you know it. His son walks out with millions of dollars. The kid knows nothing. You know it, and so do we. Go ahead, ask a question.
But the question, sir, was what did you want President Zelensky to do about Vice President Biden and his son Hunter?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, it was just a follow-up of what I just asked you, sir.
Listen, you ready? We have the president of Finland. Ask him a question.
I have one for him. I just wanted to follow up on the one that I asked you, which was,
Did you hear
what
me?
did you want
Did you
him
hear
to
me?
Yes,
Ask
sir.
him a question.
I will, but
I've given you a long answer. Ask this gentleman a question. Don't be rude.
No, sir, I don't want to be rude. I just wanted you to have a chance to answer the question that I asked
I've
you.
answered everything. It's a whole hoax. And you know who's playing into the hoax? People like you and the fake news media that we have in this country. And I say in many cases, the corrupt media.
Now, I wanted to warn you about this before the election really starts heating up, because you will notice this 100%. The media will massage Joe Biden's back while stabbing Donald Trump's back. They did this throughout Donald Trump's presidency, through the 2020 election, and they will do it for the 2024 presidential election as well. Because there is a reason that I played that clip where Trump claimed that Joe Biden and his son are stone cold crooked. Because, well, it's true. And we see this with new reports coming out about the Hunter Biden laptop story. As I already explained that the media is behind Joe Biden 100%, but the intelligence agency was also behind Biden 100% as well. As after the 2020 election, it was revealed that Joe Biden's presidential campaign prompted former acting CIA director Mike Morrell to help Joe Biden by organizing 50 colleagues to sign a letter claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop story was nothing but Russian misinformation. This was directed by Anthony Blinken. Yes, that's right, the Anthony Blinken who is now the Secretary of State. When Mike Morrell was asked why he did it, he said, because I wanted Joe Biden to win the election. However, during the election cycle, the media ran with the idea that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian misinformation and it was all fake. Don't listen to it because it's not real. Joe Biden, even in the debates, mentioned that all the laptop stuff was nothing but Russian misinformation and quoted that 51 intelligence agency personnel said that it was Russian misinformation.
President Trump, I have to respond to that.
Please,
because look,
very quickly.
there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And that's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President?
again with Russia.
But he knew that the laptop was real. He knew that the story was true. And he was using his campaign to cover up the story so then he wouldn't look bad. The media jumped straight into action, making sure that you couldn't post a New York Post story on Twitter. They even banned people's accounts because they posted about this story. This is the type of election interference that Trump should lean on. The Biden campaign purposely did this, and it rigged the 2020 election. It wasn't the voting machines or the mail-in ballots. It was the media telling the American people that Joe Biden is a saint, and he is the greatest person ever while he destroys the country. While they claim that Trump or DeSantis or any other Republican in America is no better than Hitler. They will say things like they literally want to kill you just because they can. They want to take all of your rights away, and Joe Biden, this doddering old fool who has only made things worse, will make everything better. It's all a bunch of lies. This is why Joe Biden running for a second term is super scary, because the media and the establishment will do the exact same thing this election, just like they did in 2020, and they will continue to push this narrative over and over and over again. Joe Biden will have the full force of the media on his side, so we won't know what's true or what's fake. There is a possibility that a damaging story about Joe Biden will come out in this 2024 election cycle, and the media will claim that it was nothing but Russian misinformation. Joe Biden could make a speech with a blood-red background, claiming that half the country is terrible and evil, and then claim that he is protecting democracy. And the media will claim that the speech was so beautiful and great, and that he is the best president ever. While they claim that Trump rallies are full of hate and bigotry, and everyone should avoid Trump's message. Oh, maybe we should ban him from Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's a great idea. I'm telling you right now, the media will do this again, and I hope that you are looking out for it, because it'll soon be right in front of your face. All the conspiracy theories are coming true, and that's because the media is lying to you. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Dockery Docket. And until next time, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving, goodbye.